On this Merry Christmas Eve, or for non-Christians, just another random day, I will tell you the tale of the rise of the Supreme Commander Julius Squareesar. Sorry if I sound a little weird, I'm a tad bit sick. From a local leader to the most powerful commander in all of the Square Empire, Squareesar's rise was a tale of heroism and cunning. Supreme Commander, Taker of the North, Chosen of Omni Quadrata, Killer of Dots. Squaresar was born in the Square capital, Square to a peasant family. He entered the Emperor's military academy at a young age, quickly rising to prominence. Shortly before the First Square War, the Red Emperor handpicked Squaresar as a leader in the Second Legion. Squaresar began his command under Gaius Squareesius, leading the first cohort of the Second Legion as part of the North Campaign. The goal of the North Campaign was to take the northern cities of the Dot Nation, starting with taking of the Dot City, then moving to Dotpolis, and finally Dotport. The Second Legion began its march from the city of Squarefaris towards Dot City at the outbreak of the war. Surprising the Dot forces, the Second Legion met little resistance as they marched to Dot City. Upon arriving at the city, Squareesius ordered a siege of the city. Squaresar protested the order due to the city's lack of defenses, with only an old wall and 2,000 ill-equipped men to defend it. Dot City was practically defenseless. Despite this, Squareesius refused to attack the city while the wall still stood. The Second Legion built a variety of siege weapons to attack the city walls, but Dot espionage worked to keep them offline. 12 days later, in order to add to the siege, the Square Empire sent a new experimental cannons to break down the walls. But while Squareesius inspected the cannons, Dot sabotaged them, causing them to explode, killing Squareesius. Seizing on the moment, Squaresar rallied his cohort, leading them towards the city. Soon the other cohorts joined in despite the calls for order by the other commanders. Quickly the defenders were overrun and Dot City fell. After the battle, the cohort leaders gathered to decide who should become the next general. Squaresar immediately put his name in the hat, demanding that since he had won the battle, he should thus become the next general. The other cohort leaders dismissed the idea due to Squaresar being born a peasant. In response, Squaresar stormed out of the tent to return to his troops. Soon the other leaders rallied behind Squareus Larcinius, the leader of the fourth cohort, the most important cohort. But as Larcinius was chosen, Squaresar stormed in with the rest of the army. What followed was a bloodbath. Now with total control of the Second Legion, Squaresar marched northwards to the city of Dotpolis. With the northern campaign massively behind schedule due to the slow siege of Dot City, Squaresar had to work fast in order to keep his new job. Splitting up his force into smaller chunks, Squaresar's force moved rapidly, pushing back the Dots faster than they could run. Finally, at the walls of Dotpolis, Squaresar met heavy resistance. The city had been fortified with heavy walls and over 12,000 troops, over double the size of the Second Legion. Here, Squaresar, instead of surrounding the city, concentrated his forces on one side. This caused the Dot General to concentrate almost all of his forces at one gate in the city. Squaresar sent one of his other experimental cannons at the city, primed to explode. His legion marched into the monstrous opening. In response, the remaining Dot forces wisely chose to run out of the city on the unprotected side. With the road to Dotport open and the northern campaign now on schedule, all was going well for Squaresar. But as Squaresar approached Dotport, Squaresar was called back to Square where the Red Emperor anoints him as Supreme Commander of Square Forces, then sends him to the city of Dot Francisco. If you want to know how the battle goes there, you're going to want to play my new game Dot Tower, coming out December 31st, 2021.